Hey, this is Senator Justin Reedy coming to you at the end of the fifth full week of the 2024 General Assembly session here in Annapolis. This week I want to talk to you a little bit about rhetoric and how it matches or doesn't match actions. We've been hearing a lot lately from both Governor Moore and many Democratic leaders in the General Assembly about Maryland needing to become more competitive with the states around us economically. And also, we're hearing more and more about the high cost of living. Maryland is seventh in the cost of living category in the country, so the seventh highest cost of living. And so it's always interesting to me when folks talk about that. I say, well, what are we doing to try to make that better? Well, a lot of the policies that are being rolled out by our friends on the Democratic side here in the General Assembly are doing the opposite. They have an opposite impact of that. We're having lots of long hearings in all of our committees, and I'm on the Senate Finance Committee. And this week we had hearings about trying to get in between people who want to sell tickets on the secondary ticket market for events, because people are making profits, and profits are bad. We heard about a bunch of really sort of anti-small business and anti-business bills that benefit particular like labor special interests, but actually going to make the cost of doing business, could make it much higher and much worse. And also the rhetoric is sort of this Great Depression, 1930s. You'd think everybody's working in a coal mine when you hear about the way that some of these labor groups talk about free enterprise and small business. And so those kind of things are going to not help us with economic competitiveness. We can't say we want to become more economically competitive and continue to add more and more regulations and cost onto job creators and businesses. We also can't say that we want to help bring down the cost of living and keep creating new nickel and dime fees and taxes on working families. And just this week on the Senate floor, we've had a bill that's come out that I've managed to kill. I've led the effort to kill this bill 3 years in a row, but it's back again. It would establish a paint tax, a paint sales tax on every gallon of paint up to 5 gallons containers sold in the state. And the idea is it's going to create a recycling program. But get this, it's certain big corporations that are paint corporations have gotten together and tried and done this in some other states where they create a nonprofit entity that is based in Washington, D.C., and the people who work at this nonprofit make very high salaries, by the way. And they set up a nonprofit in the state to run recycling programs for paint recycling, to get people to come back into the store and drop their paint off to recycle it. They get the recycled parts, and then folks can do that. But already in Maryland, many of our counties have a recycling program that you already pay for out of your property taxes, and this would be on top of that. And again, it's something that will end up benefiting these corporations, but they're making you pay for it with this. It might be as much as $1 per purchase of a container of paint, every container of paint that's bought. Once again, adding cost to people, working families, but also the small businesses that may buy more paint than the average person. And again, is this one thing that big of a deal? In a vacuum, maybe not. But it's another way that the General Assembly is saying one thing. We want to get better with economic competitiveness. We want to get better with the cost of living, bring the cost of living down for people, and yet, continuing to allow the gas tax to go up and up that they do every year, creating things like a paint tax. I'm hoping we can still kill this bill. I was offering amendments on the floor of the Senate just on Thursday to try to strip the tax out of the bill and say, if you want to assess some fee on the distributor and manufacturer, that's fine, but you can't pass that on to taxpayers. But those amendments were rejected, mostly on a party line vote. Actually had a couple Democrats vote with us. So that's an example of the kind of things we're fighting every step of the way down here. And on the positive side, I had legislation this week. We had a great hearing on actually bipartisan support. I will say that, got good bipartisan support on this, to say that we want to make it so that when people have a child, they're not stuck with big bills for a live birth of a child. We want to remove the co-pays and deductibles for that, just like we've done for things like abortion. We don't charge any co-pays or deductibles for any sort of abortive procedures in the state, and a number of other reproduction and reproductive things. And so we're trying to say, hey, for a birth of a child, we don't want people getting stuck, particularly it's a lot of middle class, working class people getting stuck with thousands of dollars of bill, sometimes unexpectedly, with their deductible deductible and copay. So we have a bill that we're working on to try to make Maryland a place where that's not going to happen to people. And so, we need to make sure that the things we are doing in Annapolis are going to make it easier for working families right now. This economy, we're fortunate that there's a low unemployment rate in Maryland, but we also know that some of that's because people are working multiple jobs to barely make ends meet with this astronomical inflation, high cost of living that's happening all over the country, but particularly Maryland is very hard hit with that. And so, that's been my focus this week, and it'll continue to be my focus this session is let's not add more burdens on working families and on small businesses. Let's ease the burden. Let's bring it down. There's a lot more I can talk about. We had a lot of things happening. I look forward to updating you again real soon. And next week we'll have more information on other legislation I'm putting forward and other important priorities. Hope you have a great weekend and look forward to talking to you in the future. God bless.